we are starting off with Mandy Rose, and as her subscription website has proven, the former WWE superstar is immensely popular, making over $1 million in December of last year alone. For fans, it'd be a dream come true to just have one conversation with Rose, but one fan has been fortunate enough to have an online friendship with the Golden Goddess for the past 3 years. Or at least that's what they thought, as during an Instagram fan Q&A, Rose was asked by a fan if they've been communicating on Google Chat since 2020. Rose, the real one that is, immediately shut down the idea, saying she doesn't have a Google Chat, so whoever the fan has been speaking with, it isn't her. Rose answered that question because she wanted to make it clear that she's not on Google Chat, so any account of hers on the platform is likely a scammer, and if the idea of your favorite wrestler striking up a conversation with you on social media seems too good to be true, that's because it probably is. Earlier this month, news broke that Ronda Rousey is planning on leaving WWE soon, with the belief being that she will be finishing up with the company after SummerSlam. Rousey's feud with Shayna Baszler is said to be a thank you from Ronda to the Queen of Spades, who has helped her a lot in WWE, but what's in the future of the former women's champion? Well, it appears that Rousey will be returning to the Octagon, as when UFC fighter Chelsea Chandler spoke to MMA Junkie, she said that she's heard that Rousey is returning. She said, "I've been hearing that Ronda's coming back. I heard she's coming back at 145. I'll welcome her to 145. I think it would be a great fight. It's been a long time for her, and things change, people get better, and I think people are on to her one-trick pony armbar. Money talks, and she would bring eyes to the sport again. I feel like her time in WWE is starting to go down." If Rousey does return, it'll be interesting to see how she adapts back to legitimate combat sports after spending years as a professional wrestler for WWE. Rousey is arguably the biggest female star the UFC has ever seen, but lost her final 2 fights in the Octagon. And are you excited to see Rousey return to the cage, or would you rather she stay in WWE? During a recent episode of WWE's NXT, the Creed brothers lost to Schism in a loser leaves NXT match, which many at the time saw as a sign of their main roster call-up, but that isn't the case. During a discussion on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer shed light on the situation, saying that it was never the plan for the pair to be called up. In fact, the feud with Schism is set to continue, with the Creeds being a part of the crowd of masked men during the Schism segment on this week's episode of NXT, so the loser leaves stipulation clearly meant very little for this feud. For much of 2023, Lance Archer has been on the shelf with a torn tricep, which has derailed all plans for the Murderhawk Monster in AEW. Thankfully, those issues now seem to be a thing of the past, as during the latest tapings of AEW Rampage, Archer made his return to action with Jake the Snake Roberts by his side. Archer's first match back saw him defeat Trent Beretta, and after attacking Chuck Taylor at ringside, laid out a challenge to AEW International Champion Orange Cassidy for Battle of the Belts. Archer has been with AEW for over 3 years, but is yet to taste gold in the company, and he's looking to change that very soon now that he's back in the ring. On this week's Dynamite, Commander locked horns with Chris Jericho, but despite the skills of both men, the pair didn't have much chemistry in the ring. Fans couldn't help but notice some mistimed kicks, last-minute corrections, and one disastrous Phoenix Splash, which saw the luchador land awfully on the mat outside the ring. On Twitter, fans slammed Commander for this outing, and others, with one fan deeming him the human botch machine. Another said Commander is embarrassing the style of Lucha Libre, while another said WWE dodged a botch-filled bullet by not signing him. WWE had shown interest in signing Commander prior to him inking a deal with AEW, but given this performance, WWE may be breathing a sign of relief that they didn't get him under contract. At Forbidden Door, Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay used the Tiger Driver 91, a particularly dangerous move in their match, raising questions about the risks taken by both men. Omega's style in the ring has often been criticized by some as unsafe, and now the former AEW World Champion has shared his 2 cents. Speaking with Sports Illustrated, Omega said that there'll always be people who complain, and said that the high-risk move made sense in the context of the match. Omega went on to compare himself to Mike Tyson, whose up-close style was considered dangerous in boxing, but it was this style that made Tyson a champion and one of the all-time greats. Kenny Omega has great faith in his skills and was confident he'd leave Forbidden Door unscathed, And with a rematch rumored for All In, expect the Cleaner and Ospreay to give another exciting, risk-taking performance in London. When it was announced that Jeff Hardy would be making his GCW debut next month, many people believed he would be wrestling, but that isn't the case. As GCW clarified on Twitter, Hardy was never advertised to wrestle, but will be appearing on the show for fans to meet in what'll be a fantastic experience for supporters of the charismatic Enigma. Later this month, Dominik Mysterio will compete for the NXT North American Championship against Wes Lee in the Judgment Day members' second ever match on the Gold brand. Interestingly, WWE once had plans for Dominik to have a run in NXT, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore, and NXT commentator Booker T believes that's for the best. On his Hall of Fame podcast, Booker argued that having Dominik start in NXT would have been an error given how quickly he adapted to being on WWE TV with his father Rey. He said, "Dominik's not like Rey Mysterio, but he's like Rey Mysterio at the same time, if you understand what I mean. He's so much taller, but his athleticism, the timing, the grace, the flawlessness, he does everything good." I was listening to him talk and he was saying that the original plan was to start him out in the NXT program, and I think that would have been a mistake. I really do. I think they've slipped on a banana peel and they've got a bona fide star that they're going to be able to work with for the next 15 years. Any plans for Dominik to have an NXT run were fully ended when he joined the Judgment Day and has proven to be a fantastic heel as part of the faction ever since. Whether Dominik wins the North American title this month or not, only time will tell, and while a title run would mean more appearances in NXT, plans for him to have a prolonged run on the brand weren't meant to be. On the independent scene right now, the character of Blue Kane is making quite an impression, and as we previously covered, the Big Blue Machine is proving to be a hit with fans. Right now, the snow-powered wrestler is in high demand, but getting bookings may prove to be more difficult now that his Twitter account is suspended. Despite Elon Musk's policy that parody accounts that are clearly parodies will be allowed, Blue Kane's days on the platform are over for now, but like with the real Kane, don't count out a surprise return from the dead. We've got some concerning news from former WCW star Lodi now, who recently suffered a heart attack following a match. As a report from Queen City News revealed, Lodi was competing against Lucky Ali for Deadlock Pro Wrestling and initially ignored the signs that something was wrong after the match. After acknowledging that there was a problem though, Lodi drove 52 minutes to a hospital and worried that his fate would be the same as Macho Man Randy Savage, who died in 2011 mid-drive due to a heart attack. Doctors at the hospital revealed that 2 of his arteries were completely blocked, while another, worryingly deemed the Widowmaker, was 90% blocked as well. What followed was a 5-hour life-saving quintuple bypass surgery, and after the ordeal, Lodi expressed his gratitude to God. He said, "I'm like, God, just don't let me hurt anyone, because we all know how Macho Man Randy Savage died. I was doubled over and driving one hand and trying to keep my eyes on the road. I know God was with me through all of this. I'm going to rehab and work on getting me better." While this ordeal was scary, there's no word on whether this incident affected his match for Deadlock, and Ali was able to retain the DPW World's Championship he's held since November of last year. Despite this health scare, the 52-year-old Lodi remains committed to continue his wrestling career, and we're wishing the best to the Ravens Flock alum as he recovers from this very scary incident. With 11 world championships to his name and several other accolades, Edge will go down in history as one of the all-time greats, both when it comes to WWE superstars and for Canadian wrestlers. The Rated R superstar is proud to call the Great White North home and famously attended WrestleMania 6 in the Sky Dome, and Edge got advice from another Canadian legend prior to his WWE debut. In old footage that recently resurfaced, Edge can be seen in an audience asking Bret Hart for advice on making it to the WWF, to which the Hitman said the best thing to do would be to get as many matches on TV. Edge's cheap plug for Tiki's Gym got a smile out of the Hitman, which some consider rarer than any championship, and it's safe to say that Bret's advice paid off for the future 11-time world champion. And we're ending today with Ryback, and wouldn't you believe it, the big guy has an issue with somebody in wrestling. Now, as shocking as that may be, the man who called Triple H a disappointment, Vince McMahon a pimp, and McMahon's 101-year-old deceased mother a prostitute is done being nice and has turned his attention to Booker T. Booker recently dismissed Ryback's claims that he's returning to wrestling any week now, a claim he's been saying for the past 7 years, and on his stream, Ryback lost it, swearing at Booker, busted open radio, and the marks, adding a everybody for good measure. Booker T can be found calling the action on NXT each week, while Ryback has vowed to make his return one day, but the two-time Hall of Famer just can't see it happening now or ever.